test on the highway, a longer trip to Toowoomba, about 60 kilometers one direction. And I'll leave the dog recording and the dashboard recording on and do some commentary afterwards when we come back, because I don't want to bother you with an hour of talking. I usually do. Okay, let's see what happens, because we've got the dog running and the PHEV box, and hopefully we can get up the range. Let's see. Does it work? Oh yeah, it's recording. All good. Okay guys, before we start here with this video, I haven't done a proper introduction of this whole situation here. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Unplugged EV Australia. Well, if you are a boy or a girl, you should probably not watch this channel here anymore, because I'm swearing a lot. You see me half naked in the car, and I'm showing things boys and girls shouldn't see without parental guidance. If you are still happy to watch these videos and listen to me talking about technical stuff about electric vehicles, batteries, degradation, BMU, ECU and all this kind of stuff, you're welcome to stay. If you are bored with all this shit, please click the link in the description below to get to the Disney Channel. Okay, so this out of the way. Today we are going to Toowoomba, which is about 40-50 kilometers away, rather 50 I say, from where I live. And we are following the A2 Warrego Highway westbound. And I actually wanted to see how far I can come on the highway on pure battery drive. I didn't bother to turn on safe mode here, which I usually do. You know, usually I turn on safe mode when the battery is low like this, to save some battery when we go up the range and we drive in the city of Toowoomba. Because you don't want to be one of these polluters and drive with the petrol engine on in the city. But this time I wanted to drive in pure electric and see how far the car actually comes with the PHEV box installed. I wasn't expecting any miracles of the box, because when you drive on the highway you need a constant energy input into the car to keep your speed. And there's no way to save any energy at all when you drive on a highway. Ah well, boys and girls, see, that's what I mean. I'm lying already. Of course you can save energy on the highway. I will show you later how. And while we are driving here on the highway with the cruise control on at about 100 kilometers per hour on speed, yeah, there are always vehicles which are slower than the PHEV. Here's one of them. And when you drive on Australian highways and stick to the speed limit, exactly this happens. You get hammered by trucks. And this one is not even a small one. Have a look at this. Ah, we are still going. There's a dolly in between. We are still going. All right. So I thought, this truck is overtaking me. That's fine, because I will stick behind the truck and do some drafting and save some energy. But now that was a bad idea. Heaps of rocks. Look at the power meter. I went off the power meter straight away. Said, no, that's a bad idea. Heaps of little rocks flying around and smashing onto your bonnet. Not a good idea. So keep the distance. Let this guy drive. And then we come along this long stretch of highway here where you can look 17 kilometers far. And you can see this white car far from the distance already in between the lanes. What else can it be than a police car taking some nice laser shots of the incoming cars? See, there it is. And I was watching this yellow car here on the right, which was just coming from behind in a very, very fast pace. And he obviously saw this police car as well and slowed down a lot, just as he was overtaking me. And now, after we passed the police car, this yellow Ferrari is taking off. And here we go. Guess-o-meter says 1 kilometer left only. and we have done only 30 kilometers. You can see the battery gauge is already down. The yellow Ferrari is still in front of us, and any second the engine will kick in. You will see this on the PHEV Watchdog on the yellow symbol in the top left hand corner of the screen. And here is 31.1 kilometer on PHEV on highway. That's what you get. 100 kilometers cruise control, 31 kilometers on relatively flat road. And now we are approaching the town of Whitcott, which is just below the Toowoomba range. You can see the mountains in the background already. That's where we have to go, on top of them. Yeah, entering Whitcott, 60 kilometers, but this guy was totally blind. So guys, I have to admit, I became really a bit nervous now approaching these mountains ahead of us, because I wasn't sure if the car actually can make it. The climb is fairly steep. It is a 550 meter climb with only a few kilometers to drive, so it goes fairly steep up. And here we are leaving Whitcott now again, 80 kilometers an hour, and we will soon approach the 100 kilometer zone just before we go up the range. And at this stage I had only about 3 or 4 kilometers of EV range charged into the car since I turned on the charge mode. And here we go, 100 kilometers. Okay, up the hill, 90 kilometers an hour. And this is where it got really steep now. We are going up the hill, 90 kilometers an hour. And this is almost full throttle now with the PHEV box. So you can see the power meter shows 12 o'clock. And we are soon approaching the so-called saddle. Okay, full throttle again, and now we are entering 70 kilometers an hour. And this is where it gets really tricky with the PHEV here, because you are driving fairly slow and the car constantly changes between series and parallel mode. See, I changed to normal mode now, and the power meter goes a little bit further. I could not drive fast enough to test the kickdown with the PHEV box installed. I switched to normal mode a couple of times and then back to eco mode to see the difference. And you can see also the power meter goes a little bit further in normal mode, but not all the way as it was without the PHEV box. Yeah, you know, without the PHEV box and you kick the car, the power meter goes all the way to the right, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and uses all its power to drive the car. But even in normal mode, the PHEV box limits the power to the car, which was a little bit surprising to me, because I thought when I go back into normal mode, it turns off the PHEV box basically. But this is obviously not the case. So I need to do more testing with this power setting. And now we are on top of the range. We are turning right here. And here was another little situation where I needed to start. I needed to drive and the car didn't want to move. It uses only 10-12 kilowatt. And it felt so laggy and really slow, and you needed to push the accelerator really hard to get off this point. And then we just zip around this corner here, no problems there. I must say this was day number 4 I had the box installed. I did the initial test drive, which you have seen, and then 2 drives to work. And this was trip number 4, which was the long distance drive, so to speak, to Toowoomba. And yeah, now we are entering the city of Toowoomba here. A nice little downhill section here. So I turned off the petrol engine completely and just let the car coast, and even could regen a little bit before we reached our destination at Queen's Park. And as you have seen, the car had no problem at all to get up the range. So it's fairly steep, but the car had no problem, even in eco mode with the PHEV box. The 50 kilowatt the PHEV box allows the car to use to get up this steep hill there. Or better, mountain. It's not a hill anymore, it's a mountain. So, and after 45 minutes we reached our destination here at Queen's Park in Toowoomba and went to the markets. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the trip card of this first leg of our journey. So almost 50 kilometers all in total, and you can see I wasn't slow, 72 kilometers per hour average. And then you can see the massive climb we did to go up this mountain, 700 meters of climb. Yeah, and then the disappointing figure on this screen is here the 31.1 kilometer on PHEV drive until the engine kicked in the first time. I was at least expecting 35, but 31 was not, yeah, that's not good. That's just not the best result. Consumption is 15.2 kilowatt hours, but you have to add the 2.12 liters per 100 kilometers to that, which gives us a total consumption on fuel of 4.3 liters per 100 kilometers, which is not too bad, considering we went up this huge mountain there. The only disappointing figure here is the 31 kilometers on PHEV we did at the beginning. So after we bought some awesome, absolutely super fresh beef and pork and turkey on the market there, we went further down into the city to buy some more groceries. And of course the battery was already depleted. But it was interesting to see how far we can actually come until the engine kicks in city driving. So because I'm not doing much city driving in the region where I live, it was quite interesting to see how far the PHEV box allows the battery to go down before it kicks the engine in. There are some rumors out there which are saying the PHEV box uses more of the bottom reserve capacity of the battery to let you drive longer on PHEV, and that's where the saving is coming from basically. Yeah, it depletes the battery further down and then you can drive longer on PHEV. And I wanted to test this. I wanted to show you what's actually happening. Because we had so many traffic lights here, it was just not funny anymore. Traffic light, traffic light, traffic light. Insane. Look at this. Stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. But still the engine did not kick in to recharge the battery yet. But you know, this is quite normal and has nothing to do with the PHEV box. When you drive very slowly and very carefully, you can push the battery down to 25% easily. Okay, not easily, but you have to be very careful. You have to drive very, very carefully, and you can push it down to 25%. So everyone who is living in the city knows the state of charge of the battery can go below 30% if you drive carefully enough. And I was expecting the engine to kick in every second. And we are down to 27.7% now. And I was trying to drive as carefully as possible without holding anyone up. And I thought, I can probably drag race this truck here. Yeah, let's give this a try. Let's see who is faster when the light turns green. So this is an interesting test now. Lights are green. Here we go, here we go. And I raced him. Absolutely, absolutely. And watch here, the engine, 26.8, here it comes. 26.5%, and the engine kicks in. We are coming to the top of the range, and from here on it's downhill for the next about 7-8 kilometers. So the engine turned off quickly because it realized I'm not using any power anymore. Even at a stage of 26 or 27% state of charge, the engine turns off because you start regenning, and from here on it's only regenning. So 8.8 ampere hours we had, and now it's going downhill. 60 kilometers at the beginning, and later on it's 80 kilometers, and you're regenning. And I was pedaling quite a lot between B3, B4 and B5 because you need max regen here on this steep downhill section. Yeah? And here we have gained already 1 ampere hour. Everyone else is braking. You can see red lights everywhere, not the PHEV. And this is my favorite part of the journey here, to go down this long stretch of highway. It's just awesome. And I did not touch the brake at all. See this guy on the left hand side? Constantly the brake. He's got a trailer and no motor brake. So we have done almost 2 ampere hours now. And then here, while we're approaching the 80 kilometer zone, you take the B settings a little bit back and let the car speed up to 80 kilometers an hour. And with the pedals you can easily adjust the speed without touching the brake pedal at all. Awesome. 11.3 ampere hours so far and counting. And again, the trucks go really slow downhill here. This is a low gear area where they have to drive in the 2nd or 3rd gear or something. So they're going the same speed downhill as they go uphill. And exactly this part of the journey here, this is what confuses the gasometer the next day. Because it measures all this regen you have done, and it thinks, oh, Andy is the best driver. He is a very economical driver. He can use the PHEV like nobody else. We will give him a little bit more kilometers. And you will see the next day what kind of kilometers I will get. Amazing. So now we are going back into the town of Whitcott, and the regen still works. So we are at 12.1 ampere hours so far and started at 8.7 at the top of the hill. And this is roughly about 10% of your overall battery capacity, which you will get back. And then back on the highway, and I couldn't really decide which mode to drive the car in. The speed, the overall speed was slowing down because of the road work, construction works here. And I still had it in charge mode because the battery was so empty, and we wanted to go to the German bakery here. And I didn't want to drive there with the petrol engine on. It always looks bad, I think, when you go somewhere and have electric vehicle on your back and you're driving with petrol. You don't want to do that. And then we reached our second destination, the German bakery and coffee house. So if you are in this area, I can only recommend a visit over there and try some of their amazing German cakes there. And here we had a nice coffee, enjoyed some Berliners and bought a real German bread. Amazing. Okay, let's have a quick look at the trip card here. And this is our second leg of the trip, 19.1 kilometers, basically from the top of the range down to the German bakery. As you can see, we went downhill all the time, slower pace as well, and 25% of the time regen. And look at the battery, from 10.3 ampere hours to 10.1 ampere hours for 20 kilometers almost. That is amazing. So the consumption 0 ampere hours. That is pretty good. And we have used only 310 milliliters of fuel for this leg because we went downhill all the time. so 9.4 kilowatt hours, and the fuel consumption went down to 1.6 liters per 100 kilometers for this 20-kilometer trip. And then we started our journey home, and amazingly the car lost, while we had a stop over here and drank some coffee and ate these Berliners, the car lost 1.8 ampere hours of capacity. That was maybe parked for an hour there. That was insane. The BMS software really got confused about this long downhill stretch, and now we parked for an hour and it did not know how to calculate the true state of charge of the battery anymore. So we were down to 25.9% state of charge, 8.3, 8.2 ampere hours only. Yeah, and as we went onto the road, of course the engine kicked in straight away, 25.2, and here we go. Engine kicks in, starts recharging the car's battery. And again, the PHEV box does not allow a further reduction in state of charge. And this is exactly the same result you would get without the PHEV box here. Yeah. You can go to 25% if you go really, really slow, or if you park and drink a coffee, of course, and you lose 1.8 ampere hours. We then went back to the A2 Varigo Highway, eastbound this time, direction home. And I did some more testing because the battery was depleted anyway, so I couldn't help the economy anymore. And the battery is still recovering from this fairly deep discharge down to 25% state of charge. And I'm just switching to normal mode here, this little uphill section, and kick the car a little bit just to see what's going on. And you can see the needle goes into the power area of the power meter. But this was maximum power I could get out of the box in normal mode even. So the restriction in normal mode was quite high. I wasn't expecting that. I thought the normal mode turns off the PHEV box completely, but apparently it does not. Again, full throttle, and this is the maximum we can get. It's not the car feels underpowered or so, it still has a lot of power in this mode, but you won't get the full power out of it anymore, even with the PHEV box installed and in normal mode. So I tested again a couple of times in eco mode again with full throttle, and this obviously limits the power meter to go into the white area. I must admit, I have not calibrated the box to the car yet. This is still the default factory out of the box setting as it came. In the manual it is recommended to calibrate and set up the box accordingly to your car. I'll show this in a future video. We'll do this the next couple of days, and we will take the box apart and see what's actually inside and do the calibration. I should have done this probably at the beginning of my whole testing, but I was so excited to drive actually, so I didn't have time and I didn't want to open the box. I just wanted to drive. It is still accelerating quite okay, but it's not as powerful as before anymore. So I think if I tweak the PHEV box and match it to the car, we will get more power out of it, but I doubt we will see the full power as the car had before. So if you tow a big trailer, a caravan trailer or something, you won't get the full power anymore with a PHEV box, I think. I'm not 100% sure about this, so don't quote me on this. I think you won't get the full power anymore. It limits the power even in normal mode, as far as I can tell right now. This needs to be confirmed and further tested. If you have the box, please confirm or disconfirm if this is true. And here we can see on totally flat road with the cruise control locked in at 100 kilometers per hour, the cycling between EV driving and parallel driving is exactly the same as before. So the generator charges the battery to 10.4 ampere hours, and then the engine turns off and we drive the battery down to on pure electric to 10 ampere hours before the engine kicks in again. So there's no change in behavior of charge mode, hybrid mode or serious mode as far as I can tell now. And the last 15 kilometers I let the car just do whatever it wanted to do. I didn't bother with recharging the battery while driving because we were so close to home anyway, and I just wanted to see the whole fuel economy of this trip while the PHEV box was installed. And this is our trip home from the German bakery to our place. 80 kilometers per hour on average, a sportive driving style. And interestingly, look at the battery capacity from 8.3 ampere hours to 9.7 ampere hours. And this is what confuses the BMS software totally, because it thinks it's recharging, it has recharged the battery actually, but this is only because we started with 25% state of charge only, and the end of the journey was at 32%. So we actually gained 5% state of charge during the trip. Yeah, so overall this trip has used 8 liters per 100 kilometers. That was on a full depleted battery at 25% state of charge until we went home for 33 kilometers. 8 liters per 100 kilometers. Okay, so merge with previous. There we go. Okay, so I have merged all the 4 trip cards I had into one. So the total distance was 104.5 kilometers. And the consumption, look at the consumption, is now 4.9 liters per 100 kilometers. This was with one full charge at the beginning. There was no recharge in between. We went up this mountain, went back down this mountain, so gained a little bit of energy, and I lost 1.8 ampere hours while parking. So all in total, the car has used 11.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers plus 5.1 liter of fuel. So I think this is a brilliant result. This is really, really amazing for a 2-ton SUV 4-wheel drive car on such a journey up the hill. It is a fairly good result, under 5 liter per 100 kilometers. And I did these acceleration tests in between in normal mode and eco mode as well, which have used a little bit more energy, of course. But all in total, that's basically what I get out of the car. And I would even say the box, the PHEV box, has saved us a little bit, because I usually use around 5.5 to 6 liters on this trip.